Hey friends, Pastor Michael from Organic Church, here with Sydney Erickson, Don Reed, Beth Jarvis, Nick Offolter, and Pastor Roger Deerdorf. Nick is in Gettysburg, and then Don forgot that it was Wednesday and ended up having to work, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. When there's 4 of us, it's okay.
Yeah.
When you get down to 3 and 2, it makes it a little hard to go through a whole episode.
Yeah.
While we will miss them, I think we can carry the torch for an episode.
Yeah. Hey, Aunt Tanya, I'm back. She listened to last week's and she's like, were you not at podcast?
And we didn't acknowledge it. I thought about that after I put it out. I was like, we never mentioned that Sid wasn't here. She was just real quiet. That's all.
She's like, well, I really wanted to know what you had to say about it. I'm like, well, I wasn't there.
What was last week's topic?
Well, death. I'm like,
oh,
well,
yeah. Do you believe in afterlife?
Yeah,
do you believe in afterlife?
I
Yeah.
didn't send that one to my grandma. I'm like, not
Yeah.
yet.
So. Well, and so the idea behind that, the conversation was basically, is heaven and hell real, and what is it like?
Right.
Like, how do you get there? So
I listened to it. It was good.
So your grandma, bless her heart, Holly and I go to Jerry's for lunch after church.
Yeah.
Because we thought we were going to go to
nursing home,
and that got canceled. And so they were sitting in the booth behind us.
Mm-hmm.
We go to pay our bill. We
Already
have no
paid.
bill.
Which she told me, and apparently it was Kathy. So,
Kathy.
which Kathy and Ed are.
Oh.
Yeah. And she.
I'm like, because, you guys helped. No, we did what is expected
Right.
to be done.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because when we were there, like it was a lot of work to put on that meal. And like, let me clarify. I was anticipating like graduation party style.
I said, well, hey, the Zerker family is really big.
No, it's not even that.
Yeah.
I was not thinking a service at the
I
beginning and that everybody would
either.
be there at the same time.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to put the food out. Your grandma was going to show up with the family. Everybody was going to hang out, and there was just going to be socializing, and people would come and go.
Yeah.
I did not realize that there were going to be almost 100 people right at the beginning of this thing, which was fine. But I started to panic, like internally, there's not enough water. We're out of water. We got to go get water. I went and bought 3 cases of water. Everything was fine. We had way more than enough. But when we ended that, like when we were walking out of the building, it was really like we hadn't done anything. Like we'd been there most of the day, but it was so easy because we were serving people that it was easy to serve. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel like we were,
Yeah.
you know how sometimes when you do things for people and they're super ungrateful, how hard it is to
Yeah.
to walk through it and do it with grace. That was so easy. It was so easy. So.
It was funny. The pastor had asked me because at the service, like at the graveside, like it was just really, really, really quick. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, my grandpa didn't want anything anyway. So I'm like, well, he respected his wishes. But then I'm like, I'm reading his obituary and I'm like, all right, you want to bless the food? He's like, oh, I had some more. I'm like, you go for it, Pastor Jeff. You go for it.
Well, he asked me, he comes up to me and he taps me. He's like, are you the pastor? I said, yes. He goes, Jeff, nice to meet you. Pastor Jeff, nice to meet you. Now, I've seen him somewhere before, but I can't figure out where.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the church that he was serving at before, because I would have never known him.
He was the pharmacy tech at Giant Eagle in Dover, but that was like 2011.
No, that wouldn't have been it.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have been it. But I've seen his face. Anyhow, so we kind of, I tried to place it, couldn't. And he's like, do you have anything that, like, do you want to, is there a song? And I'm like,
Nope.
I'm like, that's when I learned that it was a service and not just a meal. Like, it was like in that moment, I immediately went, oh, crap. Like,
Well, I didn't know either, to be fair. So
okay. All right. Well, that makes me feel a little bit better.
At that point, we're taking food back off the tables and putting them back in the oven.
Well, because we were thinking like, and I even said to your grandma, I'm like, hey, the cheesy potatoes won't be done, and but they're welcome to eat anytime.
Yeah.
Like, she never, and again, not her fault at all.
Right.
But it was just not what in my mind, because the service was already done as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
So
started.
Yeah, it had apparently just started.
Oh, yeah.
But it was amazing because we had enough food, which we were worried we wouldn't. There was plenty of food.
So you forgot that
I know.
somebody blessed it.
Well, and I was going to say, here's the thing. When after he finished praying, and I said, and Lord, multiply the food. I didn't know that in the kitchen they were also doing the same thing. For every spoonful that's taken out, put 2 back. So yeah, it worked out beautifully, but it was nice to be able to serve.
Yeah.
I will tell you, for any of our church family that's listening, was really disappointed that nobody else was here. And not that it's a problem, like we were able to cover it, but it was Beth, Dave, Holly, Roger, and me.
Yeah, I was, and your grandpa showed not.
They came for the service,
But he came beforehand too, wasn't it?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, when I stopped around noon, I could have swore he was here helping
Mm-mm.
bring in the waters. No,
Nope. Nope.
that must have been just Dave.
Yes, it was probably Dave.
Okay. Huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it was okay. Like I said,
Yeah.
it was fine. But it's still one of those. Where was everybody? Because everybody expects to be served, but doesn't want to serve, and that's, I think, is the struggle. But I've had a million conversations with a million pastors about this, and it's not us. It's not just our body. It's the body in general.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not just the body, it's the world. Everybody is looking for instant gratification, what makes them feel good, what gives them what they need, and they stop thinking about other people.
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing. Everybody is going to show up on Friday night to the fall festival, right?
As they're being served.
Because it doesn't require anything
Right.
of them.
Right.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Love them anyhow.
Yep. And the thing is, there are some that I know that would have helped had they been able to.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Dawn wasn't able to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nick and Margie were at the service, so they could have brought food, but they weren't really able to serve because they were there with family. There was a handful of them that said, "Hey, I'm not going to be in town" or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but it just is. It's challenging when it's the same 5 or 6 people always trying to.
It's always been that way.
Yeah, I know that,
You know.
and especially in this building, it has always been that way. It's been a select group of people always.
But you will see that almost in all the
Yeah.
churches.
That's what I'm saying. It's not. This isn't unique to us. It is the way that the church is. So, and it's a change. It's a shift. Because it used to be all of the ladies would love to get together and can soups and bake pies and whatever. But this is a firm belief of mine. There's a division between age gaps, and I don't want to blame either generation. But the older ladies don't want to teach the younger ladies anything new because the younger ladies don't connect with them because we're technology driven now, and the older ladies are not. So there's a bit of a gap there. But the older ladies. And look around our church. How many older ladies do you see swooping up young ladies and trying to just mentor them, trying to spend time with them and just encourage them? It doesn't happen. But then on the other hand, you have those younger ladies who don't want to connect with those older ladies either. So there's always that divide and a weird rub.
Well, and I think I've said it before, like your parents' age, like there's that. Where is that
I know.
generation? Like, I feel like if that generation was more profound in the churches, they could kind of link.
That's the missing link for
You know
sure.
what I mean?
For
Like,
sure.
it would be a lot easier. Like, I feel like it would just flow
Yep.
almost. There would still be work, but it would be
Yeah.
a lot easier, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Because even here, I mean, it's like that generation
Yeah.
is
missing.
Me
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Dawn and
Yep.
Rhonda.
It's a small group of people, and it's not enough to really bridge the gap. The other interesting part when you look at the church and all of the shifts that are happening, the younger people aren't attending church the way that they used to in the same fashion that they used to. There has to be a level of entertainment, and I don't mean that during a Sunday service.
Right.
I don't mean you have to
Have all the lights.
laser lights and all of that stuff. I don't think
We got them.
and we're going to get more too. I'm not saying you have to have that, but I'm saying there is a certain level of engagement that you have to have with them. And the unfortunate part for me is that because I'm bivocational, I don't really have that to give. So it slows us down in that generation. So yeah. And there are some like there are congregants in my age group that don't show up regularly, and beyond the church sending them a card, a lot of times Alyssa and I will handwrite them cards and send them, or shoot them text messages, just, hey, we miss you guys, let's have dinner, things like that. So it's more about like personal engagement.
Yeah.
But here's the I said this a couple of weeks ago in a sermon. I think I did. They talk a lot about the churches. You'll hear this a lot, that there's more happens in circles than it does in rows.
Yeah.
Did I say that in one of my sermons? something to that degree.
Well, something to that.
Say it
yeah.
again, because I.
So more happens in circles than it does in rows, meaning
Uh-huh.
when you get together with people outside of church, that's when discipleship happens versus sitting in church on Sunday morning.
Oh, okay.
So when
Yeah.
you're in the row, yes, you have a neighbor in the row and you know them, but you're not connecting with them.
Mhm.
When you go out
Mhm.
and you have a small group, you connect with them,
Mhm.
which is why churches push small groups. We've
Yeah.
tried that. It fails miserably
Mhm.
because small groups are only as strong as the leader in that small group.
Mhm.
And a lot of times small groups every group has flawed leaders, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's more social than it is spiritual for them.
Yeah.
And that's where you start to get into that.
Yeah.
Like even our young adult group, we'll get together and play Mario Kart, or
Yeah.
we'll get together and have dinner or whatever, but there's really no gospel centered moment
Mhm.
in that. And so that's a struggle. It's hard. And the reason that the young ladies don't connect like with Holly's group and things, they're a handful. I don't want to say that none
Yeah.
of them do, is because that age group of ladies enjoys different things than that younger
Oh, yeah.
group of ladies. Do
Definitely.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And food is food. Everybody loves
Right.
food, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll eat
Yeah.
food all day long, which
yeah.
by the way, for everybody who's listening, I am not friends with Pastor Holly anymore. Her and I, our friendship is over because they had pumpkin roll.
I had a piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
now you're on the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait till you need some help doing something.
No, you got to finish your work. No, just kidding. But there's a vast difference in what engages people
Mhm.
in that, because the mature ladies are ready to be spiritual, right?
Exactly.
Mhm.
We
The
want
young
that.
ladies are ready to be social. They need to have like emotional connection with people
Mhm.
before they're ready to be spiritual. But that emotional connection, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but when you guys come in, you're ready to be fed, right? You're here to hear the word, and those ladies want to come in and socialize.
Mhm.
It's a big difference.
It is.
And so there's a connection that has to happen that just is not there yet.
Mhm.
So I believe it'll come.
Mhm.
It'll take some time, but it'll
Comes
come.
with age.
Well, and that's the thing. But we can't expect, like, at a certain age, you don't
Right.
care about the social. You want to be fed.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not here to be social with people. I'm here
Right.
to get the word, get some, like,
Food,
some
fuel.
right, some
Yeah.
fuel. I'm ready to move into my week. And while I would love to chat with you on the phone or maybe stop and visit, I'm not
I don't have
interested in,
time.
I don't want to spend hours on end in the building socializing with
Right.
people.
Yeah.
But right now, that's what a lot of them need. So it'll be a hard struggle to get
And
past that. The older you get, the less you want of that and the more you want the word. But you got to get them here because otherwise they fall off.
Mhm.
So, which is a great lead into our conversation.
Well, how do you listen? Like you have any more time on your plate for anything?
Uh,
But since the younger people do connect with Alyssa and you,
Mhm.
and when you get your group together,
Mhm.
do a Bible study
Well-
first before you do your fun things.
That's
Or-
what my grandpa did. He had Friday nights with Jeff, the pastor.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think what they did. I think they did the word, did like a half-hour Bible study, and then they, played pool.
Yeah.
Instead of the 2.5 hours, maybe.
The struggle is a lot of times when we do things with the young adults, they stagger in.
Mhm.
Yes.
It's not like everybody is there.
Mhm.
So if we do it at the beginning, and this is something I've learned, everybody knows that you do it at the beginning, so they wait until after that's up
Right.
before they show
Yeah.
up. And it's not that they don't want the work.
Yes.
That's not as important to them as the social aspect. So
Well, I just think that's rude
I agree.
because I see what you're doing. I know what
Yes,
you're doing.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
because-
better for you just to stay away.
Yeah,
why you're
right. You
always
don't
late.
show up until the food comes out. Don't come. Like, get out of here. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you gonna do?
okay, here's the topic. If you have children, what approach would you take to teaching them about faith? So we've all got children, which makes this conversation great, right? Because we all have children in different age groups. I have children in every age group. Come on, let's be honest. But Roger, your children are all grown. Beth, your children are grown. Like everybody's out of the house. You guys are empty nesters with the exception of all of your dogs and your bad dogs.
My bad dog.
But even that, like his are kind of older children. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And then hers are kind of more of that. Well,
Middle age.
middle age,
Yeah.
ish. Yeah.
So you raised your kids in church?
Yeah.
So where are they now? And on their walk, on their faith walk, on their faith journey, where are they now?
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay. So that's it. We're coming back to that. Beth, we know that
I have one in church.
one is in church.
One that wants her daughter in church every Sunday,
But doesn't want to be in church
She
herself.
doesn't want to be here.
And that's okay. Because again, there's still seeds being planted.
And one that he's just seeking the right church.
Okay. Okay. Sid?
My little minion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Baby Shrek.
yeah. So
He loves Shrek so much. That's why I say that. It's not because he looks like Shrek.
well, his head. Yeah, I mean, what?
So like he's still
a
a
6-month-old.
yeah, he's
Yep.
still a baby.
Yeah.
Like he's not coming to church on his own. He doesn't get to go
Although
he
he's
doesn't-
in the 75th percentile,
Of course he is.
and his head. You want to guess what his head's in?
99th percentile.
97.
97th.
We just have a lot of brains.
Listen,
Just say it's
East-
rolling brain.
Easton is in the 99th percentile of everything. Like, dude is just a beast. So I get it.
Yeah, but
So he's obviously not going to youth group by
Yeah, no.
himself or any
Yeah.
of those things. So you're going to form a plan.
yeah, but
for-
even now, like, you know, I'm kind of already implementing, not necessarily like a Bible study at night or
Mhm.
anything, or we're not really doing prayers with him right now or anything, but when I'm reading, I try to read a book a day at
Mhm.
least, and like I've got those books in there. Like there's little ones that they'll just tell the story about Jonah and the whale,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
So I've got different books like that to kind of start to just
Yeah, but he'll remember. all
sprinkle
that.
in. Yeah,
And even if he's not like absorbing that and he's not reciting
Right,
back the
right.
story of Jonah and the whale, at some point in his life when he hears that, like it's going to trigger something
Yeah.
in his brain that goes, oh, I think I've heard this
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
So,
once or twice.
Yeah. okay. So we'll talk then about future
Mhm.
as we get through this. So I have 5. The 2 oldest are not interested in church in any way, shape, or form, and they were not raised in church.
Right.
Just be super clear about that. Like while I was attending, because they're from a previous relationship, they were not with me most Sundays, so they were not forced, quote
Yeah.
unquote, to be in church. Like there are a lot of people who have kids, and if on Sundays we go to church, it's just
Yeah.
the way that it is. So for them, it wasn't like that, and it would have only been every other weekend at
Right,
best.
right.
Right.
So the older they get, the less they prefer to come.
Mhm.
But when they're with us on Sunday mornings, it's not optional. They come to church. The 3 youngest, though, holy smokes. Like, they live in this building.
Mhm.
They're here 3-4 nights a week, some weeks.
Mhm.
They understand all of when I say they understand, I'm talking like they genuinely understand like prayer language and moves of the spirit. Like they genuinely understand
the
this.
flow of things,
Right, because they experience it regularly.
Mhm.
So when there's a message in tongues, most kids that freaks them out,
Mhm.
or new people that scares them.
Mhm.
My kids are like, "Did you hear Roger speaking in tongues? Did you hear Holly speaking in tongues?" Actually, they don't say speaking in tongues; they say speaking tongues. Did you? And Easton, when people start to hit the floor, he's the first one to stand up and watch. Like he's like, "I need to be in this."
Oh, I
need
remember
to-"
sitting in the pew at Bethel, like,
Yeah, I want to see who hits.
Shy, who is that?
I want to see who hits the floor, and I want to know what happens when they do it. So, like, he is in it.
Yeah.
Adeline is learning about flags and waving flags, but we don't take any of those things lightly.
Yeah.
When she says, "Mom, can I wave my flag?" she goes to the back so that she's not disruptive and that other kids don't ask for flags.
Mhm.
So, smart parenting, right?
Oh, yeah.
So she goes to the back and she waves her flag. And I occasionally like to watch her do that because usually she's waving her flag and she's got her other hand up and her eyes are closed and she's very much so engaged in actual worship.
Yeah.
Not just
Just-
the waving of the flag for the sport of waving the flag. So I say all of that to say this. I have no hand in that. Even as a pastor, my wife is on that 100%. And it's not like she beats it into them. But every night before they go to bed, they pray together. They read a Bible story,
Mhm.
whatever. Adeline has these little prayer cards and they pull them out and they just say whatever prayer's on the prayer card. So it's not like it doesn't take mental capacity, but it's teaching a reflex.
Yeah.
We-
Consistency.
Yeah.
Right. We say grace every night before dinner. And there are fun rules with that. Like if you take the first bite before grace is said, you have to say grace that night. Otherwise, we try to rotate around the table to do it. That we have a sign that hangs on our wall that says, bless the food before us, the family beside us, and the love between us. And so it got to the point to where that was the prayer. And then we just keep repeating it. So now that prayer's off the table. You're not allowed to say that one anymore. So it's bless this food, bless the hands that have prepared it. And then that was all they would do. So now that one's off of the table because we want it to be a conversation.
Yeah.
Not something that we recite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's very intentional.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, you don't want it to get.
It's not a. We're not
trying. It gets like religion.
Exactly. Yes, and we don't want it to be that way. We don't pray just to pray. We pray because we want to genuinely be thankful for what it is that we have. Mm-hmm. So, we were talking about this before we started recording, but so we looked at a house in Janaton. We put in an offer, which is crazy, by the way, because, I mean, Beth sent it to me. Sid sent it to me. My real estate agent said 4 times we needed to look at it, and every time we were a hard no. Hard no. I'm talking no.
The Spirit was trying to guide you.
Now listen, I don't fully, I don't want to discredit that, but here's what I think was happening. Our no was because we weren't ready because our house hadn't sold.
Yeah.
Today, we got an offer on our house.
So now you're like, okay, let's go.
Well, we got the offer on our house, which we were not okay with.
Oh.
So they offered us full asking price. Then they offered, but they wanted us to pay part of the closing cost. And they wanted us out of the house in 60 days. 30 days close, 30 days later for possession, which would have put us moving out December 18th. And I said to Alyssa.
With nothing lined up.
With nothing lined up and nothing on the market.
Yeah.
Nothing on the market. And I said to Alyssa, I'm like, I don't, because then they start talking about like transitional housing. Maybe you have to stay with your parents. Maybe you have to get an apartment or stay in an Airbnb. And we're both like, we're not doing that a week before Christmas.
No.
We're not doing that to
Not
our
if you
family.
don't have to.
It's chaotic. And we walked in with any sale that comes on the house, any buyer that comes to the house, it's contingent on us finding suitable housing. And they were not okay with that. And so I called the real estate agent back. I'm like, hey, listen, we've talked it over. If they don't want it with our contingency, we're okay with passing on this offer. So he says, all right, I'll let them know.
Yeah.
10 minutes later, I get a call back. Hey, they're good. They're good with the contingency.
Huh.
He said, now they won't hold on forever, but they're good with the contingency. With that being said, then it was easier for us to shop because we knew we had our house sold. And so it became like there was this relief that we didn't have to sell ours anymore. And we knew we weren't going to be homeless at Christmas time. And so we were open to possibilities at that point. The fact that that house is still sitting there without a single offer on it.
Yeah.
It's a brand new build is amazing.
And
that's where I
that
believe the location, the price, and it comes, all of the appliances are furnished.
Oh.
Which we did not want to sell our appliances, but our real estate agent said, hey, listen, at this price point, the appliances have to stay.
Yep.
Yeah.
We didn't know what we were going to do. We were going to have to go buy all new appliances. So that's where I think God's hand was at. Like he was like, hey, it's going to be there, but I don't want you to look at it because I don't want you to get your hopes up when, it was that timing needed to be right.
Yeah.
Listen, we showed our house, I think 8-9 times, something like that. And every one of those people, and Rhonda from church came and looked at it. They all loved it. But there was one small thing that didn't work for all of them. And we knew, Alyssa and I said, a lot of that is coming from this not having the suitable housing portion for us. Like we weren't there yet. Not everything had come into place. So we just knew it was time to wait. Now, I said all of that to say this. We took the kids today with us, obviously. Adeline was an adamant no.
On the house?
Yes. And listen, when Sissy speaks, that carries weight in our house because she's the princess, right? Like it carries some level of weight when Sissy says no, because she's usually pretty docile. She's usually pretty like, oh, I'll go with the flow, like whatever. Yeah. And she was a hard no. This was not the house that she did not want this house.
Why?
And why?
And it was because she wanted the first house that we looked at on 14th Street in Dover, which was a beautiful house, huge yard. Everything about it was gorgeous, but the house was not conducive to our lifestyle. So she kept saying she wanted that house. And so they left the house and they start driving towards the park to see how far they are from the park. And as they're driving, she realizes that one of her friends lives right down the street. And she goes, I'll take that house now. And so again, it was that.
Wait, the Janaton house?
Yes.
Oh, gotcha.
So it was like just perfect the way it all came together. But I said that to say that we take what our kids say very seriously. Like now, Easton has oppositional defiance disorder. So when he tells me he hates me, I don't take that seriously.
Mhm.
But when they tell me they have a concern, like we don't like that or we're worried about this, we take that
Listen,
seriously
Yeah.
because our kids have been taught
Mhm.
the right values. They understand
Yeah.
that their emotions are valid, but they can't be governed by those emotions.
Yeah.
You can be scared. You can be upset. Adeline doesn't do bugs, okay, at all. The other morning I got out of the shower and I saw this. It's not a millipede. It's not a centipede, but it was a long bug in the bathroom on the wall.
Mhm.
And I tried to kill it, but I missed it. And it fell to the floor and ran behind the toilet. And I thought, I've got to kill that before I leave because Adeline will lose her crap if she sees it. I forgot to kill the bug.
Uh-oh.
So Alyssa calls me. She's like, your daughter. And I'm like, oh, she saw the bug in the bathroom. She said, how did you know? I said, because I tried to kill it this morning. And I said to myself, I've got to kill it. She said she was hyperventilating. She was screaming so loud. Like thought she was being killed. She was screaming so loud. She said, I thought for sure she was like bleeding internally.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
there
yeah.
was no understanding as to why she would be screaming that loud. But we take that stuff seriously. Like their fears are serious to us.
Yeah.
But we try to, like, Adeline was so afraid of spiders when she was little that we had this little board book that had, you stuck your fingers in it and it looked like the spider legs.
Oh,
That if you
yeah.
got that book out, she would melt down, full on meltdown.
Aw.
And so we spent a lot of time letting her pet the spider and getting used to the fact that that book was not real because we're trying to,
Yeah.
fear is not
Yeah.
an emotion that we want our kids to have. There are things you're going to be afraid of,
Yeah. It's not going to.
but we
be
don't want it to.
impossible
We don't want it to define them.
Yeah, you don't want it to over.
So
Yeah.
we're constantly working on that. But that's
Mm-hmm.
all about how you raise your kids.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I talked a lot to say that. So
Well, my Aunt Tanya always said that, and says still, with Trip, like she can kind of just go to him. And I don't know. I think, how old is he now? 20. Well, what? Fourth grade, 10, I think. What year are we in? 2024.
2024.
Yeah. So 2013 or 14. So yeah, they're about 10. But even I think it was like he was 7 when she was telling me, like, I'll just start to pick his brain just to see, like, what is he thinking about this
Right.
this subject, or and she did kind of notice that they kind of talked about finances a little,
And then they get
more.
worried.
Yeah, then he got worried, so they kind of had
Can we afford that?
right.
Yes.
Yeah, she's like, why are you worrying about this?
Yep.
So that's about the only thing that she doesn't really,
Yeah.
really open up with him about. But
Especially when you want to take, if you want to go on a vacation
right,
or you want to make a large purchase,
Mhm.
because then they worry, is there enough money for this?
yes,
Can we afford that? Or if we do that, what does that cut into?
Mhm.
Like it's
what does this take away?
it's
from
it's really
Yeah.
bizarre
hmm
when your kids get to that point.
Yeah,
The scary part for us was Easton was at that point in kindergarten
yeah,
because he was so stinking smart.
Yeah.
So everything that you wrote down, he could read. We had to start writing in code. Like it would just be initial. Like I would walk into the kitchen, I would look at the calendar. I'm like, I don't know what that one means, and I'd have to say to Alyssa, "Hey, what is that?" And he got to the point where he'd look over your shoulder to see your phone to see what you were talking about. So like, it was really bad for a while, and he has gotten over that for the most
Yeah.
part. I think that he probably has some level of social anxiety.
That's what I was going to ask.
Like it's not about being around people, but it's about knowing what's going on.
What's going
He
on
has to
and,
understand
like
what the next step
controlling
is.
Yeah, yeah.
So like with this house process, he's like, so are we buying a house? Because we know we sold our house. Are we like, do we have a new house yet? What do we do if we don't have a new house? And he's asking all of these questions
Uh-huh.
that we are not prepared to have these conversations with him.
Yeah,
So-
because you don't know right
right.
now.
And
Like,
we're
it's up in
panicked on the
air.
inside and trying to pretend like we're
Yeah,
not.
Yeah, yeah.
Tyler's like that. He has to know.
Yes.
And being
He wants the step by step.
Yep, step by step. Well, what's going to happen? Well, when are we going to do that?
Yeah.
And
That was
you know,
my grandpa and my
and why
dad's
why
same
are we
way.
doing that?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's-
Tyler is very much like
It's
that.
scary because life doesn't work like that. Never has.
No.
Never will. Tyler has been helping me with the gym project. Like we've got a lot of irons in the fire over there. We've got the stage. We're working on it. Roger's putting a hole in the wall to run the cables, the sound cables through. And then I've just taken off all the cove base. We've got to paint, strip the floor, take the carpet down. Like there's a lot of things that are happening over there. And I told Roger today, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a list. And this is the order in which these things have to happen.
Mhm.
And here are the things that you can do by yourself. And here's the things you need extra help with. Because that question, and I'm not picking on Tyler
Yeah.
but I know that he
Yeah.
is this way, and I am to a certain degree as well.
Mhm.
He wants to know, why aren't we moving faster? And what's the next step? How do we get to this point?
Mhm.
Especially if we wanted to be in there by Christmas, which he is convinced we can do. He is convinced we can be in there by Christmas. What's the next step? What do we have to do to get there? How many nights a week do we have to work in order to get
He
to
sees the big picture.
He definitely has
Yeah.
caught the vision. The
Yeah.
unfortunate part is he's caught the vision so much so that he's outpacing me on it. And I'm all about like God's time will be perfect on that project.
yeah.
It will happen when it happens. We're not ready yet.
Uh-huh.
Like it's going to be a huge move for everybody.
Uh-huh.
It's not just a move for us to move the sanctuary there, but you have to move all of the classrooms. You have to move. There's so much that has to happen
Oh yeah.
on top of that.
Oh yeah.
So it's a process.
I think Holly and I want them big rubber mats that you put in front of like your sinks when you're washing dishes.
You want those in the kitchen?
No, we want them where we're going to be sitting because
Oh,
our
geez.
feet and legs hurt so bad standing on that
geez.
cement.
Oh, jeez. Well, but so think about this, and that won't be forever. The
Yeah.
cement is only going to be that way until we can afford the carpet.
Mhm.
But if we want to start utilizing the space after having done all the work, we're going to have to go in there before the carpet is down.
You're going to be like 4 worship songs. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, we're going to have to.
Old people are sitting down.
Yeah, we're gonna have to cut worship short, and also I won't be able to ask you guys to stand and honor the word because you'll be like, Pastor Michael, we've been standing too long, buddy. Yeah, yeah. Just wait till you go out in the spirit and hit the concrete floor. I'm just kidding. We have a plan for that. We have a plan for that. If she's gonna throw a pillow under your head as you go back, we're gonna get everybody a helmet.
Well, what is your plan for that? So it'll be padding under the carpet.
So the initial plan.
We're going to take and cut a big chunk of this down the
We'll
hallway.
use the carpet, the
and we're
leftover.
going to use this carpet here.
Yeah, so Roger and Alyssa have concocted a plan that because we all love our floral carpet so much, we're going to cut a strip of it out and move it to the other side. No, at first, so we're going to take all the paint off of the floor
Mhm.
and we're going to polish the concrete. And so it'll just be polished concrete for a while. However, at the front of the stage, I think, what did we figure? It's about 50 feet. We'll call it 50 feet. So 12 feet back, 50 feet long will actually be padded carpet.
Oh, okay.
But it will be temporary and we'll be able to roll it up if we wanted to take it out.
Huh. Nice.
But the idea behind that would be it's not direct onto the concrete,
Yeah.
which is the same as what we've got in there. That's wool carpet glued to the concrete.
Mhm.
So it's going to be about that
About the
same
same.
feel. So
Yeah.
You know that carpet's never going to wear out.
that carpet in there, I know. That's what I keep telling people. A nuclear holocaust could happen. We will know where this building stood because the carpet will still be there. The two things that will survive a nuclear holocaust, cockroaches and our carpet. That's it.
You know, I do have a little confession to make.
Oh,
because
geez.
The carpet in my living room is the same carpet my parents had when I was growing up.
I have never seen it, but can I guess real quick what it looks like? It's not shag, it's a thicker pile, but does it look like brains?
Yes.
I'm telling you, everybody who built a house in that time period, it's the same carpet. It's the carpet we took out of the house that we're selling.
It won't go
I know.
away.
Listen, the carpet
Slowly it
Will
is
you
because
pull
when
up
I
a picture?
when I scrub
of
it,
that carpet.
Yeah, I'm trying to, or like
bleach water
Google it.
gets
Maybe.
added to
I'm
my
trying
scrub water, and it is slowly dying.
Brain cells are slowly dying.
Brain carpet. I don't know if that's going to pull it up or not.
I'm sure something will pull it up.
Was that the early 80s?
Well, my house was built in the 50s, and my guess is yes, they would have put that carpet in somewhere in the 70s or 80s. Because 70s would have been long shag.
Mm-hmm.
So, unless they were ahead of their time. Do you have a picture of your carpet, Beth?
I'm
'Cause-
trying to
Okay.
find it.
1980s brain carpet.
yeah, right. I don't have any pictures of our old house or our house before
Yeah.
but it's funny because the real estate agent did when he came to visit us. He's like, look at this house before and look at it now. It's a completely different house.
I found the house I grew up in, pictures of whenever we sold it. And it was updated and everything, but it was like back in 2015, like when my parents sold it, and I almost like forgot what it like. I knew what most of it looked like.
Yeah.
Like my stepsister's room, I was never in.
Yeah.
I'm like, that looks like that, you know? So it was kind of neat how I could pull that up from 2015.
Yeah.
But
And so Zillow they live there forever, but I don't know where Alyssa has them all saved because we took pictures of everything before we started the work.
Now you can't find them?
It's in
Well,
cloud.
I don't have them. She does. And
Okay.
You find some? I got to see this because what color is it? Is yours green?
No, it's
No, it's
Okay.
gold.
Oh, this is the carpet that my grandma had in her
it
house.
won't go away either.
That stuff will live
Yes.
forever.
Let me see.
I almost
Does it not look like brains?
It
Like
does,
it looks
yeah.
like the
like
ours.
yeah.
Ours
Yeah.
was hunter green, not hunter green. Ours was like grass green. Was the color in our house. All of the walls were mint green.
you know what? My grandma's house now has that.
Does it really?
It's weird too. 'Cause we're like it's the same house.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
bizarre.
It won't go away.
Listen, we looked at another house. We didn't actually end up going to see it. It was 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, but the second bath was in the basement and the water meter was in the bathroom. Like I was like, nah. It looked like a shoddy like extension of the house, but they counted the basement as a bedroom. And I was like, nah, that's not for us. But anyhow, I swear to you, it was our old house, the house that we're in right now. It was that house in a different location. Like it had a slightly larger footprint,
Yeah.
but it had the same sliding closet doors with that are still on our house right now. Like the same trim color, all the same, like everything about it was exactly the same as the house that we're moving out of. It was nuts.
Yeah, that's we put hardwood floor in the kitchen, hardwood floor in the bedroom, hardwood floor in the sunroom. I just have the dining room and the living room left. I have the floor bought for the dining room so it matches clear through.
oh yeah. Yeah.
That living room's so cold. I don't know if I want hardwood
I
floor in
wouldn't.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
But-
carpet in any, like the bedrooms have to be
Bedrooms,
carpet
the
to
living
me.
rooms, Yeah.
And I prefer the living room to be carpet, but like I can do a rug in the living room.
Yeah. That's
'Cause-
how my dad is. Like when they moved into the house they're in now, they're like it's like carpet in all the
Yep.
rooms and then carpet in the living room.
Yep. The kitchen, the dining room, all the bathrooms, I want those LVT or linoleum or something, but yeah.
So what are you gonna do with this house?
We're going to just do a rug in the living room.
What
All the
about the
bedrooms are
bedrooms?
carpet.
Oh, are they?
They are all
Okay,
carpet.
Okay.
So we'll just do rugs or a large rug in the living room.
Mhm.
And that's what's going to give us the pop of color that we're looking for too,
Ah,
because
Yeah.
we'll be able
make
to
it
do
more
like
homey.
a turquoise or
Mhm,
something that will give it a little more life because it's very beige right now. It's very
Yeah.
brown, but
Yeah.
See, and our standoff is the steps to go upstairs are in the living room,
Mhm.
and he doesn't want to redo the steps because like, you can get a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, why
we
don't you
still
just
haven't-
carpet the steps?
He don't want to carpet them.
Hmm.
Why?
He don't want to redo them. When I do carpet in the living room,
Mhm.
he don't want to do the steps because it costs just as much to do the steps as it does the living room.
Does it though?
I don't know. I
It's
haven't.
a
Labor.
lot
Really?
because then you got to do the step and then you got to do the hallway.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you have like a pivot? Like mine go like this, and then you have to
Stop at a landing or
stop, and then
something?
there's like 2 more steps.
no, it's straight up.
Yeah. That's a bummer.
That's kind of like my hallway is like the last like thing that we just haven't. We've temporarily like put paint and stuff, but I'm like,
Yeah.
because everywhere else has hardwood or linoleum or something, but I'm like, I don't want carpet just here.
Yeah.
But I think my dad might have, with my grandma's house that he flipped, I think he ended up doing linoleum like on the steps. I'm pretty sure. So I'm like, maybe we'll just ask him to help us with that.
Well, I just wondered if we took it off and painted
Painted them?
and
Yeah.
then
Well-
did just
Or even
like
stained them.
It depends on how bad
Yeah.
like what was done to them underneath.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had one rental in Berlin that was like that. They had waterfall just down the center. And when we took that carpet off, the stairs weren't salvageable. So we had to recarpet the stairs because they were, they had like painted beside the carpet,
Yeah.
but the floor had also been stained underneath. Like it had several layers and you just couldn't like,
Yeah.
without a lot of sanding and a lot of extra work.
That's where we're at right now. And I'm like, oh.
You just weren't going to get it where it needed to be. So we just did the waterfall up the middle again and called it a
Yeah.
day.
Well, and
Yeah.
like our hallway upstairs is very narrow.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until we bought the house next door that we realized why our hallway is so narrow because it was it was a room you
Yes.
walked into
Yep.
and then you
Oh.
walked into the second
Correct.
bedroom.
Oh.
And
my-
so
mhm.
to build the hallway,
Yep.
it's narrow, but that's what we did over there. We built
Gotcha.
a hallway over there. So you still had 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
We, Alyssa and I lived in a really big townhouse when we lived in Newark. I'm talking 4 stories, huge. Okay. The attic space was all finished. That's where the boys played.
Mhm.
and you worked your way down. So okay. Anyhow, the floor that the bedrooms were on, I can't keep track of what floors that was. When you went up the steps, it was a long, narrow hallway. And I'm talking like shoulder to shoulder. You would bump the wall if you were drunk because there was just no give. But again, it was the same way. It was originally one big open space that
Yeah, 'cause all homes had that walkthrough. You know, you went in one bedroom and you walked through the next.
which is weird to me, by the way.
Yeah. My friend, the house she grew up in, it was like that. So we'd have to like walk up the steps and then walk through her parents' room to get to her room.
Yeah.
And her dad like worked midnight. So we always had to be quiet. Yeah.
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 So back to our subject.
Yeah, I was going to say, now that we've wasted 20 minutes talking about our dream homes and what we've experienced in life growing up. So, Roger,
What?
you have 2 kids.
Yep.
You don't know where they're at in their walk.
Right.
Okay. So, just through the history. So, they started going, when did you guys start going to church?
They were, I don't know, probably 5 and 6.
Okay. Did they go to a youth group as they got older? Well, let me ask you this, is maybe an easier question. About what age did they stop attending regularly?
When I did.
Which was,
Oh, man, I got to think. We're back.
yeah. Go back in the Rolodex. Call your buddy Fred Flintstone.
Oh, man, I don't know.
Yabba dabba doo.
Probably 80.
How old would they have been? Any idea? Or would they have been teenagers? Would they have been young adults?
Oh, they'd have been teenagers.
Teenagers.
Yeah.
Okay. So they stopped going then. Did they ever go after that? That you're aware of?
My daughter. Well, yeah, my daughter did.
Okay. At what age? Any idea?
She was married.
I'm making a point, by the way.
I hope.
I am. So she was married. Okay.
Yeah.
So she did go back.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my point. We've talked about this a million times. When do we lose these people?
Young adult.
That young adult age.
Yep.
They're too old for youth group. They're too young for sanctuary, and they just split. And you never get them. I shouldn't say never, but it's hard to get them back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to get them back. So how do we do things differently to fix that?
Well, and even like, what do we do differently without them feeling like, well, I don't need to be in a class? Like, you know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that they're going to think that they're always right and they know everything. And
I'll say this. I think that the benefit that we have is that, and I'm not trying to be mean.
Yeah.
This is just very direct. I am younger.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they see me, it's not like there's some old white
Right.
guy up
Yeah, yeah,
there like
yeah.
yammering about. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I make jokes and we talk life versus cramming
Mm-hmm.
a topic down your throat. So
And you'd think that that would draw more in
Well-
because you're about the same age as we're raising children. You're having
but what are we missing? You know what we're missing. You've said it to me. What are we missing?
the live band.
Live worship.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're missing. And the problem is, in this building, historically, I don't care, Roger, you can probably agree with me to some degree. I don't care when you look back to any time that I have attended here and there's been a live worship team, there has been an absolute conflict on that stage and you can feel it.
Yeah.
We have never had a worship team that just goes, you know what? This isn't about me.
I don't think I felt like this with this worship team.
That's not live worship.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking guitars and
Okay,
drums
yeah,
and I'm talking live, like instruments live.
Mhm.
Because I think even what we do singing, it's glorified karaoke. Like, I'm not trying to be mean,
Yeah.
but we don't sing harmonies. We have to have a backing track. We can't control when a song stops and starts. Like it's just, we're tied to that track because what we're missing is the worship experience.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We can pivot and add a song, but if Gyra is playing and there is a move happening and you have to stop singing Gyra and go to whatever, like there's a break there. There's a very obvious like
Yeah.
stop in the move of the Spirit. And so that is a huge downfall for us. Like my real estate agent is born and raised in Pentecostal church.
Mhm.
Going to Pentecostal church his entire life. And so I asked him today, you know, you occasionally ask these questions when you know they're not attending anywhere. Like, hey, where are you guys going to church now? Now, I knew where he was originally going.
Yeah.
And then I knew where he ended up. But I didn't see that there was still a connection there.
Uh-huh.
And they aren't going anywhere. So what happens to them? A couple of things. What happens to their tithe?
Yeah.
It goes nowhere, which means eventually the blessings that they receive will stop,
Uh-huh.
which is not good for them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and they're not being fed. And I don't care if you're listening to a live stream, it's not the same, and it never will be.
No.
But they have come from churches that are large, with large worship teams and live music and bands, and the experience is there, which is what I said. We don't need lasers and lights and fog machines and all of the things, but they're expecting it to some degree.
Yeah.
They don't want just, and I don't want to say that the anointed word isn't enough for them, because for some it is, but they also need that engagement, that thing that keeps them.
Well, and especially if
Pumped
that's
up.
what they were used to.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I feel like
That's very surprising to me, because I was at a fire and his younger brother, who's also my age, I don't remember. It was in high school, but they were heavily involved. Like,
yes,
that whole thing.
I know, it's crazy, isn't
And
it?
I'm like,
well, here's what happened. Mom and dad left and went to a different church.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as the kids got older, they're obviously making their own decisions for where they're going to attend, and it just nothing has stuck.
Huh.
So there's that. So I feel like, from your standpoint, Roger, you lose them at an age at which they can no longer be in a class, and that's not the case for yours. You stopped going, so they stopped going.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it's hard for them to go back because they don't have anything to compare it to. Do you know what I mean? They weren't in big church. They were probably in youth group and things like that. So now when they have to go to big church, it's a lot different for them. Plus, you have this stereotypical, like, this is what church looks like, and which is what happens here a lot. People think they're coming into a traditional church experience, and they don't get that. And they're like, what the heck is going on in this place? You know, we get the snakes out and we start like hanging from the chandeliers and stuff, and scares people. No.
No, but yeah, but no.
yeah. No, but yeah, but no. So there's a certain level of like anticipation that comes with being in that church service for the first time. And if it doesn't meet or exceed your expectations, you're likely not going to come back.
Right.
But with Heather, if she didn't have adult church, like, she has no other, and I shouldn't say Heather, because you said she went back at some point.
Yeah.
But your son, right?
Rich. Yeah.
If he's never been in a church, like, as an adult, I feel like that might be better, because he has nothing to compare it to. So he doesn't have those expectations.
I think the problem is, though,
Society.
just my opinion, it's hard to find one.
Yeah.
Because what are you looking for at that
Right.
point?
Yeah.
Because now I don't know what I'm looking
know
for.
what you're looking for.
So if for the first, listen, when my wife and I moved to Newark, we went to a Foursquare church in Newark.
Yeah.
Like, we got on the Foursquare website and looked for churches close to us. There was a church in Newark. We're like, heck yeah, we're going there. So we get up on Sunday morning, we get ourselves all dressed up, and we walk into this church, and everybody is flocking to us. We're the youngest people in the building, bar none. Okay? And they're like, fresh meat. And they were wonderful people, don't get me wrong. And they're like, oh, what's your name? Where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. And we're like, actually, we just moved here. We're from a Foursquare church. We're from Yorksville.
What's the pastor's name?
Yeah,
I might know him.
Yeah. So we're like just kind of like shooting the breeze. And they're like, and I was like, I lead worship there. I led worship there, all of these things. And they're like, do you want to lead worship
They
for us
want
this morning?
you to do something. Yeah.
That morning, having never been in that building before, I had a microphone in my hand. Do you know how bizarre that was to me? Because I would never in a million years let somebody I didn't know, I don't care what you tell me.
Yeah.
You could tell me that you are Jesus, and I'm not giving you a microphone on Sunday morning, because it's just not going to happen. But that's how desperate they were for new people. That's how desperate they were for something fresh in their building. It's wild to think about that.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that was a bizarre situation, too. It was wicked wild. We had no idea what to expect. And we walked in there for the first time, and when we walked out, we never went back.
Yeah.
It was not for us. It was a different type of vibe, and it wasn't for us. So we ended up at a... trying to think from there, where did we go? We ended up at a place called Church in the Mall. It was a Methodist church. We did not know that when we attended for the first time. But we were regulars at the mall, because it was a pretty big mall, pretty hopping. And we were pretty regular there. We would go to the food court, like, because at the time we didn't have the three littles. So it was just me and Alyssa most of the time, and occasionally the two big boys. And every time we'd walk by this, I'm like, we should check that out. That looks really cool. We should really try that. So we did. And we met our best friends there. They were attending there. She was leading worship. We met her there. Still friends to this day. It was absolutely wonderful. But the experience there was just not, but it was Methodist church.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like they didn't want you to stand during worship. They preferred you to stay sitting because it made other people uncomfortable when you stood. Oh my gosh. The female associate pastor there, she was something else. Her name was Mariah, and she would refer to Joseph as Joe. And I'm like, you ain't got it like that. Like, you ain't buddies. You ain't bros. Like, and it drove me crazy.
Joe.
It drove me nuts. Like, at Christmas time, she was talking about Joe.
Oh.
And I'm like, I can't. Like, so we ended up in a Pentecostal church that basically ostracized our best friend at the time for having colored hair. And we never went back. And so we were churchless for a long time. And had it not been for Florence, we would have been churchless even when we came back home, because we just we'd been out of it for so long. Yeah. It was easy to get out of it and not come back. Yeah. But because we came home and we were comfortable with this house, with this place, it was easy for us to readjust because we knew what to expect when we walked through the door.
Yeah.
In Rich's case, how does he know what to expect?
Right.
But to that, I also feel like church has changed a lot for the better, I think.
Depends on which one you walk in.
Depends, but like my dad, he doesn't attend and hasn't attended since probably about same as Heather, not sure exactly when, but I, there's certain times where actually I was telling him about Michael DJing, and he's like,
wick.
Michael's a DJ?
I'm a everything.
He's like, what else does he do? I said, he'll do anything for anyone.
Yeah, I am anything kind of guy.
Yeah, and there's just been some other things like where he's like, not with you, but other things where I think he's so stereotypical or what, and I think it's starting to change now, but I think he's kind of just, I don't know, kind of thinking about when he was going and I don't know. I think the church has changed because society has changed.
And pastors are no longer in most cases are not full-time pastors anymore. Correct. A lot of us are bivocational.
Yeah.
And so it changes that traditional church model, that traditional church concept where you come in on Sunday morning, but that guy's also available to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Like, there are still some of those that exist, but that's not common anymore. And so people have gotten more used to a pastor who is flexible and finds new and creative ways to do things and to have ministry.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because, and I have no problem sharing this on the podcast because I don't care who gets upset about it, but I don't do home visits. I don't. And I don't do it because it makes me uncomfortable, right? Like,
very much so.
I don't want to be in somebody else's house because, like, first of all, I'm very particular. Like, if you have animals, that's fine. I have animals. Yeah. But I also know that my house doesn't stink like a dog. It's not dirty. Yeah. Like, my house is lived in, but you're not going to walk in my house and step in chewing gum on
messy, but not dirty.
You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. Like, I'm constantly telling the kids to pick up their shoes or whatever, but it is not dirty. There are times that you get invited into a home that I would be uncomfortable sitting down in. And that's not fair for me to do that to myself. Like, I value my time and my mental energy more than that.
Yeah.
But when I found out that Tom was sick, it was nothing for me to go visit Alva. It was nothing for me to go to your grandma's house because the connection with her was so much different than it is with so many other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, she's been here since day one. She has spoken life into me. She has been a huge, not supporter of the ministry, but an encourager of me, not just in the pulpit, but in life in general. And so I'm visiting a friend. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not visiting a congregant, I'm visiting a friend. And so a lot of people are like, well, you don't do hospital visits for so-and-so, but you do them for so-and-so. You're right. But Jesus had his 12. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't be everything to everyone all the time.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I'm selective, and I'm sorry if it's hurtful.
Yeah.
But I pray for you just the same. It doesn't change anything. Like, I don't have to be in your house to pray for you. I don't have to lay hands on you to pray for you. And if you think that, then you got it wrong. That's not how it works.
Even when my grandma, I don't know, it was last week or week before. I think last week I was there. Someone was calling about, well, where's this service? And she's like, well, we're just doing a small one, but then Saturday we'll have the celebration of life at the church. They're like, well, what's the address? And she's like, well, it used to be Yerkesville Foursquare, but you'll have to look it up as Organic Church. And they kind of were like, well, Mom, why the changes, this and that, and she backed you up through it and was like, he's an amazing man. He's changed some things, but it's for the better. He's just one of the most amazing people you'll meet.
It's so important to me that people understand that we didn't do that because we wanted to disrespect what the church used to be. It was a hard-fought change. It was a lot of contemplation. I don't want to say that there were tears shed, but I mean, it was blood, sweat, and tears, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, you were on council when we did it, Sid.
Yeah.
To get to that point.
Yeah.
We had to do something to differentiate ourselves from what the stigma was of this building.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Florence was a wonderful woman. She did nothing but there was this church had become an old person's church, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's no disrespect, but people who were here had been serving with her for so long that the young people they didn't know what to expect when they came through, so they didn't come through.
Right. They were almost intimidated, like we said.
Yes, because you have a pastor of 50 plus years who knows how life works.
Who's not afraid to pray for you in the Wendy's line when you're
giving her... and scare the daylights out of you. Right. And so we wanted to change that and soften that up a little bit.
Yeah.
So that the approach was, but I'll tell you, moving the cross to the lobby was like setting the building on fire to some people. They lost their freaking minds.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in any way disrespectful to who Florence was, the ministry that she had. I was hoping that we were building on a foundation, but
yeah.
And we have, and a lot of that has
subsided,
resolved itself. But
if it hasn't already, then what are we doing?
Right. And I'll tell you, I noticed that there have been several churches in the area that have closed. And there's a statistic for the number of pastors who retire, quote unquote, quit every week. And it's a substantial amount of people. But those churches close because they don't have the same level of support that we do. Mm-hmm. Our building is paid for. That's wonderful for us. But there's much more maintenance and upkeep on this building than there are in most of those other smaller churches that are rented or leased or whatever. Mm-hmm. But we are so you can have a congregation of 50 people on a Sunday and have a $4,000 tithe. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot of money to somebody who maybe attends New Point and they have a $20,000 tithe on a Sunday. But for us, that's big money, right? And we are very, very careful about how we spend it. We don't we're not knocking walls out and pulling up carpet because we want to. We're doing what we feel like is bringing us to that next space. Yeah. So that next generation can see live worship, can have the experience that they have come to expect.
And I don't think you'll get mad at me for saying this, but I was telling Chase something about, I don't know, maybe the plumbing or something. And he's like, I don't even remember what it was. And I was like, well, trust me, they make sure they've got estimates and they're going to, you know what? I think it was the HVAC.
Oh yeah.
That we were talking. He's like, well, was it the cheapest? I'm just curious, how Brotherhood kind of compares anymore. I'm like, well, I'm sure, because I said literally anything that we would do, they would make sure that they had 2 or 3 estimates. That way they could come back to council with, hey, this is what we're looking into, and so on and so forth. And I don't think people know.
Fun fact for Chase, Brotherhood was not the cheapest.
Really?
It was actually $300 more.
Okay.
However, we could finance it. And so it was worth it because we couldn't afford to pay for it up front. Because it was $7,000. Is that right?
I don't.
$5,000. It was $5,200 or something like that.
Yeah.
And the other quote that we got was from another local shop in town who didn't actually come out and look at the job. They had done other work in the building for us before, so they thought that they kind of knew. But I'm telling you, the minute that they would have found out that they had to drag that coil up through the attic, they would have been like, nah. It's going to be $6,000, $7,000. Yeah. Because that was hard work. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, I happened to stop. I assumed they would be done. I happened to stop. And they were like, that was the worst job we've ever done. We'd do it all over again. They were super kind. We did joke on the other side of the building, there's a double unit. He said, when that one goes out, don't call me. But if that thing went out and I called him right now, he'd be over here to fix it. And I know he would.
Yeah.
Listen, when Janaten had that real bad storm, we were days without electric. Jarvie's like, hey, you got a generator? And he's like, no. He's like, what's cost for one they gave him? He's like, how about I give you $400 more? Can you find me one? He's like, I'm on my way to Cleveland now. He came back that day, put the generator in, showed us how to start it up and everything.
Yep.
That night we went to bed. 11:30 at night, I hear this banging on the door. I'm like, what is going on? I go to the door and he's like, hey. He's like, the electric's back on? I'm like, no. He's like, just let me in. I'll go shut the generator off for you.
See?
So, I mean, he didn't have to do that.
No.
But he knew we'll be sound asleep.
Right.
That
Yep.
generator
Yeah.
run all night.
Yeah. Chase has worked like beside them during a lot of jobs,
Yeah.
and they've said like, because we still don't have central air in our house.
Oh, I don't know how you live.
Yeah, but I think it was last summer, and they're like, we'll remember that. And I think like they have a couple people that they like always try to keep it. But they had called Chase and was like, hey, we've got one we just pulled out from the house. Like, nothing's wrong with it if you want it. Well,
Yeah.
I think I was working like with no service, and I told Chase, well, yeah, you know what? And he's like, well, I think it's gone now. Like, we had to jump on that.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh. But even things like that, like we're not, I mean, Chase has worked with them several times, but they're not like close friends every single day or anything. You know what I mean? Just down to earth people.
Yeah.
Good people.
Yeah, and they sponsor a lot of the sports
Oh, yeah.
at Indian Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will say we had that gas leak
Mhm.
in our house. It's the middle of winter. It's supposed to be one of those nights it was going to be below zero.
Yeah.
So we had to call the fire department, to come check, smell the gas.
Uh-huh.
So, they came out and yes, there's a leak. So
Yeah.
now the gas company's there. They find the leak. Of course, it was my gas line to my heater to my pool. So they disconnected it all. Well, before the gas company would let them turn it back on, they had to come in and inspect everything in the
Yep.
basement.
Yep.
Well, guess what? Our house is 100 and some years old.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a small leak in the basement that we never smelled. So
Yeah.
they red tagged it.
Yep.
They shut it down.
And now he has to come out and fix it in the middle of the night in order for you to turn gas back on.
So they never left. So
Aw.
they're with the gas company. Okay, how about if we bypass because there was like 2 or 3 of them that were leaking. We bypass those. We run a new one into the furnace so they can at least have heat tonight.
Yeah.
Will you come back and check it?
Yeah.
And he's like, no. He's like, I don't know where he came from, far away. He's like, I'll just sleep in my truck and wait. They stayed till 2:30 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
running gas lines so we could have heat that night.
Oh, that's
So-
amazing.
They are good people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they took really great care of us, like I said. So, yeah.
Yeah.
While they may not have been the cheapest in that particular job, they did take really great
But
care
it was
of
the
us, so.
smartest thing for the church.
Yeah,
to
at
do
the time,
that
we didn't
time.
have a choice. Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are very
Yeah.
smart about,
Yeah.
the options.
And it's the same, like we do the majority of the work ourselves. As much of it as it's humanly
can.
possible, we
Yeah.
do ourselves.
Yeah.
Try to.
Yeah. And it's not fun. Like Roger and I are probably just about sick of doing work inside of this building. I do more here than I do in my own house. That's a fact.
So do I.
That's why you're going to get a new house.
Yes, exactly. And I'll tell you what, Lord help me. If that happens, we will be just absolutely thrilled because it's brand new and I don't have to do anything at all.
That'd be nice.
He'll
Not
be
even
painting
paint?
that.
Not even, well, yeah, we will paint it over time,
Over time.
but because it's livable, like it's not like we're walking in and
Yeah,
the walls
it's
are
move-in
peach.
ready.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
we can definitely live in it. But
Mhm.
yeah, Adeline won't live in a brown bedroom. It's not a girl color. And so
No.
it will have to be
It's
a girl
not.
color.
Yeah.
But I also have like 500 gallons of accessible beige at my house. So we've got plenty of paint. But I painted a room and I thought, well, it's going to need 5 gallons. So I bought 5 individual gallons of accessible beige. It ended up taking 1.5 gallons. So I've got plenty.
Yeah, you got
Plenty.
You got enough.
I was thinking 5 gallons.
Oh, geez.
Like, because you have the
Yes.
5-gallon ones in the gym right now.
So, but those, that's 10 gallons sitting in
Uh-huh.
there. We
Yeah.
figure that'll do probably a quarter of the gym, the 10 gallons. Because we're painting, 12 feet high? No, it's probably not quite that high. Maybe 10
10 feet.
10 feet high. So, a lot of
What
work.
color is that?
Accessible beige.
And that's almost a gray.
No, it is
It's a beige.
it's a creamy tan color.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's very light. So the hope is, because the stage is black, it's so dark, that will lighten up the rest of the room.
Mhm.
But then on the top portion above the doorways, that one goes into the kitchen, one goes back towards my office, those are going to be a different color. And I haven't exactly decided the color on those yet. It'll be like I'll have to put some
I
swatches.
thought
up
you
there.
were going to make a blueprint for me.
Yeah,
I
well,
told you.
yeah.
You're like,
I
I
should.
Can't.
I
I'm
should.
Like, no, no, no,
I really
it's
should.
Fine.
And whatever color we end up doing those, we'll put up 2 passages of scripture. One is going to be the Foursquare, Jesus the same yesterday, today, and forever. And it's going to be almost the exact same color. It'll be a shade darker than the pink color. So it will stand out, but only when you look at it the right way. And on the other side, we're going to do Florence's favorite scripture, which is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me on the other side. So that's another thing that I want to point out. Not that everybody cares or needs to know this, but there are homages to Florence all over this building.
Yeah.
Her name is on the sign out front, which I shouldn't say everybody, a handful of people told me I should absolutely not be doing that. Like there is no reason that her name should be on that sign. And I said, you have to understand something, that she was my friend.
Yeah.
Like this is go beyond, but she was my spiritual mother. She was my mentor. Like all of those things. This building would not exist. It wouldn't be free had it not been for her.
Yep.
And so there's no reason her name shouldn't be on the sign.
Exactly.
The sanctuary was dedicated to her when she retired. And so now when we move that, the only thing that I can do is make sure that she is still part of that through that passage of scripture. And nobody that walks in here will ever know that. But I will.
The cornerstone, is there something?
The cornerstone is on the front building out there. Yes. And there
has
the shrub that is planted under that cornerstone was the one that was gifted to us at her funeral. It was the azalea that was gifted to us at her funeral. So there's little things all over the building.
little Easter eggs.
Yes, little Easter eggs. And so if you knew, then it would mean something to you. And if you didn't know, it wouldn't make a difference to you. So
Because you wouldn't know it was there.
right, so it wouldn't matter at all. Yeah. I don't know how we got off topic again, but we did.
We did.
Magically. Okay, so Beth, one that is in church, Tyler, who abuses me and I abuse him. He said he's coming tonight to take the carpet off the wall. I'm guessing 10, 11 o'clock tonight he'll show up. Because he doesn't do anything during the day. They must be night owls. They're always here I'm getting notifications that somebody's in the building at midnight. What are you doing? One who is not, but has her daughter in church. So Rara comes here on Sunday. And then one who is looking for the right church. What does that mean?
Yeah. How do I approach this?
Yeah. So they want a church that is welcoming.
Acceptable of their lifestyle.
Is welcoming of their lifestyle. And that's a challenge, but
Very
probably
much
not where they're living.
No.
Because he's selling houses.
Really.
And so he's in real estate. So I would assume lives in a larger city.
Yeah, Grand Blanc. It's a fairly large city. And it's on the outskirts of Flint. So it's like your
Gotcha. Don't go there. The water's bad.
Yeah, it's like your nice area.
Gotcha. So certainly there is somewhere that he will find. Now, that may not be what we would want for him, or how it's hard to, because we're kind of dancing around the subject, but people can figure it out. It may not be what we would want, but the gospel is the gospel regardless of the situation. And so the hope is that they get the gospel, they hear the truth, and then they're able to do what they need to in their lives to process that. So
That's right.
I think, it's funny how they were in church when they were little. And then after I got my divorce, there was this big gap of time that I didn't have them in church.
why is that?
Because I wasn't living the life I should have been living at that time.
Been there, done that.
And then Jarvie and I got together, and then we got married, and we got back into church. So they were in church. And they were in church.
Yeah.
We were in church Sunday morning, Sunday night. They were there. They were there for Wednesday night. They were there for dance team. They were there for
anytime doors
youth
were open. Almost.
Group.
Yeah.
If the doors were open, they were there, and they had a very big youth group and an active youth group. And then there was a division in the church, and then we followed the division, not knowing at that time that we were following the Jezebel spirit, that we were now part of that.
Yeah.
So then we went to that church and realized that we just followed the trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. The trouble never went away,
No.
surprisingly.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And it crushed the other church. So then we tried to go back. But at that point, there was such bad feelings and
Yeah.
hard
Oh, yeah.
feelings.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of like, all right, they're here. What are they going to do now?
Right.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was rough. And so then I was out of, there we are, out of church again.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the kids felt that church hurt during that?
Definitely.
I
because
went
the
through
reason
that.
it just was a lot of hard feelings in
Yeah.
the other church
Yes.
we went to.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it broke Tyler.
Yeah.
It did, because Tyler was just like he is here. Do. I'm
Yeah.
going to do. And it never was enough for them.
Yeah.
They were going to use and abuse him, but were never appreciative of it.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because so Tyler is, I cannot control him. I can't contain him. He is off the chain, like straight up off the chain. There's no way to, and Courtney is the same way. They are like two peas in a pod. They want to do.
Yeah.
And I try to slow them down, because I'm like, guys, I love the heart. I love the drive. I love the desire, but I can't keep up with you. Like physically can't keep up with you, mentally can't keep up with you, emotionally cannot keep up with you. And they always want to do. But I always, and I think Roger can probably agree with this, whenever we're talking, I always try to honor what it is that they're asking.
Right.
Like they want to do t-shirts in the worst way. They want to do t-shirts. And I'm like, listen, I hear you. And that sounds like a great idea, but it doesn't make money. And not that everything has to make money,
Right.
but it's going to take time and energy. And I don't have it to give. And if you want to do t-shirts, that's great. All I ask is that I get final say in the design, because I don't want t-shirts that are subpar running around with our name on them. But at the end of the day, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But it can't cost the church anything, because I can't dump, $5,000 into t-shirts.
Exactly.
That we don't have.
Because we've got other projects on the burner that we want to deal with first. But I can see how easily a church would take that drive that he has
Oh, yeah.
and just turn him loose and let him do it all, but then not honor any of the other ideas or thoughts that he has, or his value and how he tries to contribute. So,
Yeah, I can see that.
that would be really easy to do. Okay, and so the one that's not in church but sends their kid.
I just don't know how to reach her. I'm trusting that God is going to use Rosalind.
Okay, can I also say this? I think that we were smart. I think her wedding
That was smart.
was a smart move.
I
too.
do.
I thought that too.
I think that was a smart move, because what she anticipates to see of a pastor is not what she got that night.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, and listen, I wasn't drinking. I wasn't acting foolish. I was very much so professional, but I played the music they wanted to hear, which
You were a
sometimes is music I did not want to hear.
You were a professional DJ
Yes,
that day.
yes. I was a DJ. I was off the clock pastorally.
Yeah.
But the next morning, I got a text from her that thanked me and said how much fun they had and how wonderful it was and all of those things, which is not typical.
No.
And so while it's not like she showed up at church the following day, there was this like, if I have somewhere that I need, if I just need to find somebody, there's going to be a connection there.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so that's the hope.
Yes.
Yes.
So
I don't know if I'm going to get like, I don't know if people are going to
it doesn't matter anymore.
sensitive or mad, but I feel maybe with her. So during this separation with the church, she was in this, right? With you. I feel like,
No.
no?
I think,
Okay.
Yeah. During the separation, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then,
So she was seeing it all unfold
oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
tagging along.
And then that when she got married the first time, they went to a very, very, he was raised in a very, very strict Baptist church that they pulled his sister up front of the church and was very rude to her because she had hair coloring.
Yeah.
It was a Baptist church where the women wore dresses
Yep.
and they didn't cut their
Yeah.
hair. They didn't wear jewelry
Yeah, I know what you
and they
mean.
didn't do that. So
there's a lot of church hurt.
I was going to
There's
say
a
a lot
lot
of
of church
church.
And there's
hurt.
actually additional church hurt that I'm aware of that maybe not the whole group is aware of, and probably not stuff we want to share, but like there's a lot of, I think she's holding on to a lot of.
Oh, exactly. So
Yeah.
then
So
you know, that added on top of it because then her first husband's like, no, I'm not going back. And his parents continued to go there and they couldn't understand why they would allow that church to do that to their daughter.
Yeah. I think between the church hurt and like how diverse religion is to begin with. That could be confusing for her.
Oh, yeah.
And I think she's like, she knows deep down. I think she might be confused still of what she needs to do, but she knows deep down, I need to have my daughter in.
Yes.
That way she does not end up, you know, kind of confused like I am.
Yeah.
And I think she's still trying to figure it out for herself, but she's trying to set those stones
the path
for
that
Rosalind.
she's going is, you know, there's a God, but there's also, you know,
there's a higher power.
There's higher powers and, you know, nature and all this stuff.
My cousin's the same way.
I'm like, I want to so bad,
but at least
I don't.
And you at least now acknowledge it and listen. And because the last time you told us, you know, you had a good conversation with her.
We did, and
you met in the middle, and
so if she approaches it, I talk about it. If not, I let it go because I don't want to.
Yeah, you don't want to overstep it. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I feel like you have to create that kind of warm, safe space. And when I say that, I don't mean like your feelings are valid and that kind of safe space. I'm saying like, if I were to get a text from her right now that said, "Hey, I'm really struggling with whatever. Can you talk?" Like, it wouldn't matter what we were doing. I'm going to stop and I'm going to pour into that. Right. Because while it may not bear fruit today, like, that's that, like, okay, the window opened. All right, now the door opened. All right, now it's time to say, hey, come to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
But I am also a firm believer that when they come through the door the first time, you don't go chase them down at their seat and be like, hey, you need to come to the altar. Hey, you need to come.
Yeah.
I need you to just understand it. I just need you to show up. Because if you can show up and experience it, like, we're all normal people. We're all broken and crazy.
Right.
Well, and I think you showed her that. I think she has this idea of what a pastor is.
That's what, like, my dad, like I was saying, they have this idea.
Yeah.
You know,
and I think she, like you said, she carries some of that church.
Yeah, certainly.
Oh yeah, I can. Heck, it took a while for me to like let go of my church hurt, and even that. I mean, I don't have it now.
Yeah.
You know, but I still had it when I was attending somewhere else. You know, and
and I think there's this certain level too of guilt that, and I used to make fun of Florence for this. Like, if you missed a Sunday at church, she was calling you.
Oh, yeah.
Where are you at? Why weren't you at church today? And it didn't matter what your excuse was. I had to have my leg amputated. Not good enough. You should have been here so we could pray for you. I'm serious. Like, it just was, she was zero nonsense. And now that has, like, for me, that has loosened up a bit. It's frustrating to see, especially people who serve that aren't regularly attending. And so that's frustrating for me, but it's not life or death.
Yeah.
Like, especially, like, you have a job that doesn't allow you to attend regularly. So.
Yeah.
But I know that you're still engaged. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there are some people who just aren't engaged but just don't attend. And then when something goes sideways in their life, they want to call you and have you pray for them and do all of those things. And so I try to there's a balance there. Yes, I want to pray for you. And yes, I want to love on you. But at the same time, I said it last Sunday, I can't pray you into heaven.
No.
I can't preach you into salvation. You have to find that on your own.
Yep.
And so I think that's the same for her.
Yeah.
I think right now she has to, it doesn't matter how much we say to her, how much you do for her right now, she's going to realize it on her own. And that's where the difference is going to come.
And, and I used to struggle a lot with, worrying about where my children were going to go and what did I do wrong? Did I do this wrong or that wrong?
Yes.
And finally, another woman that I grew up in church with, she said to me, we're not riding into heaven on our parents' shirt tails.
Right.
And your children aren't either. So, you've brought them up in church. They know right from wrong.
Yep.
They're going to figure it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Harry Reichman said something to me when Alona was really sick. So Alona she had an infection of some sort.
Yeah.
And I mean, she was sick.
Yeah.
I went to the hospital to see her and she couldn't move. Like, she was out. And it was scary for Harry because, I mean, Alona's all he's known. Do you know what I mean? So it was really scary for him to be there in that. And he said to me, here's the thing. He said, you guys can pray all you want, but it doesn't matter. Whatever God has ordained is what will happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, ugh. Like, because you how do you comfort somebody who says it doesn't matter what you pray? God has already decided what's happening.
Yeah.
That's a gut punch, but it's true,
Sure.
right?
Especially
And
coming from Harry.
I know, because he's like a no BS kind of guy. Like he's about as truthful as it's going to come.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's a challenge because you look at life like that. Like your kids know right from wrong. I can't pray you into heaven, like we said.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what I pray. It's going to matter your choices and what God decides to do with your life. That's the end of the day. And I'm not saying like you have free will.
I was
So
gonna say,
like
they
you
have
have
free
you
will.
have a choice
Yeah.
to not follow Jesus and to follow the world. You have that choice. And Jesus wants you to follow him, but he's not going to force you to do it.
right.
He's a gentleman. He's not going to force himself on you. The door will always be open, will always be unlocked. The window will always be open. All you have to do is turn around and say, this is what I want for myself. And how we get our kids to realize that is virtually impossible, because here's what's going to happen in my life. This is something that I'm preparing my heart for. Adeline is going to love Jesus her entire life. That's what's going to happen. Emmett is going to love Jesus his entire life. Easton is going to hate Jesus at some point in his life. And here's the reason. Because there are rules when you're a Christian. And he is not a rule follower. He wants to live his life the way he wants to live his life. I'm not saying he's going to walk away.
No.
I'm saying that there's going to be a certain level of resentment because he doesn't like it when I come to the church because he misses me. And so church took my dad. Do you see what I'm saying? Like there's this rub. He doesn't hate being here. But if he had a choice, this would not be the first place he would come.
But Easton's the one I see behind the pulpit.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I was going to say. So there is going to be a rub, and he is going to walk away at that young adult age. And then at some point, God is going to kick him in the seat of his pants, and he's going to be serving in a church somewhere.
Yeah.
I told Chase, do you know who Matt Brandt is? He used to be our neighbor, and his son, I said something about Nolan. I think his son is Nolan. And I said, I think Chase was showing me a video, and I was like, hey, this looks like Nolan. And he's like, oh my gosh, I wonder what he's up to, you know? And I'm like, you know who he reminds me of? He's like, who? I said, Easton. And because they are, but so Matt is, been in different churches. I think right now I don't think he's with Pastor Tommy's anymore. I think it's the one right off of 416, like right past South Philly Pizza. You can see it like across from Lowe's. It used to be an older building.
See it across from. Is it the old white building? That old white church that's there?
No, it doesn't look like a church. But
Legacy, Lifeway, Lifeway.
I want to say maybe he's there now, maybe.
Yeah.
But
so again,
I think a lot of them are.
No disrespect, but Lifeway preaches, from my understanding, I've never been there, don't plan to go. I love Travis and Leslie, grew up with Travis. Leslie's a wonderful woman. I think they're wonderful, wonderful people. They have a huge food pantry. They do, it's not AA. What is it? But it's something like that. They have a regular course that they do. They're wonderful people, and I think they have a wonderful ministry. But I understand, if I'm not mistaken, that they preach from the Passion Translation, and I just can't get past that.
Yeah,
I just you can't convince me that God walked through your wall and told you to write the Gospels from an emotional standpoint, because there's no context to the actual text.
Yeah, not only that, but comparing it to other scripts, like if you have the NLT sitting beside it, you're like, how did
it's all about the heart and about what you would feel. And I think it's great for somebody who just like needs to connect. Like if I read the word and I'm like, well, that doesn't really make sense to me, now I'm going to go read it out of it's a great reference, but I don't believe it is a preachable text.
Yeah.
So a lot of people do go there, but it's because it's warm and fuzzy. And Travis and Leslie are fire, by the way. They're both anointed pastors and preachers. I mean, they're just gifted. So, all right, Sid, your turn. So Cooper doesn't really quite get to be a church baby.
Yeah.
Not because of but like he's a baby. So it's not like he's, he's not active in the youth group at this point, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what do you think, like, as he gets older, what does that look like?
Well, number one, me finding a career that does not require me
to be at church
on Sundays.
Yeah.
And that's what I was talking about before we got on.
Yeah.
So I'm always just trying to figure that out, just because I'm like, that's what I want for him.
Yeah.
Like I want, even like you said, if Easton goes astray, that you've had all these years to plant so many seeds. You know what I mean? Like that is my duty, I think. You know?
Our kids have been in church since they were pretty much born. Again, Emmett had a couple of years very early on that he wasn't, but
Yeah.
Easton and Adeline don't know anything but church on Sundays.
Right.
And during COVID, they watched church on TV. Like there was, and it was still like this was it.
Yeah.
You don't get to go to the fridge. You don't get to go to the bathroom. You don't we're not gonna,
Yeah.
we're gonna sit through worship. We're gonna sit through service.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Not cause any commotion.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, it looks like our youth group it just keeps growing and growing, which is very hopeful, you know, and encouraging.
Mhm.
That, especially just looking around, like Ashley, you know, having JJ, and
Yep.
even just the kids that are a few years older than him. Like,
Mhm.
I look and I'm like, some of my best friends are a few years older than me.
Yep.
You know, so having that, and I think just having this community actually the other night, I'm like, man, I haven't dedicated him yet.
Mhm.
And I was meaning to, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, you know, I'm working every stinking Sunday for the most part. So yeah, that actually came to mind like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So,
The fun part about church is that youth groups are always cyclical.
mm-hmm,
You typically have one really big youth group,
mm-hmm.
and then they all graduate, and then you got nothing for 2 or 3 years.
Like a dud.
And here's what I think. I think that is God ordained so that those youth pastors can catch their breath.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
Or he can prepare the next.
Yes,
Yeah.
because it is a lot of work. Because my expectation of a youth pastor, which we don't have one currently, like we
Right.
don't have
Right.
a youth director or a youth pastor. Like
Yeah.
we don't have one that exists.
But we don't really have a congregation at that age.
Agreed.
I mean,
Agreed.
well, your Emmett's coming up.
Right. Agreed. And we have
And your older boy.
Aaron and Aiden, and we have Izzy. But they are, again, they're like Aaron and Aiden aren't regular attendees.
Mhm.
So to say that they would be part of a youth group is like,
Mhm.
it would be hit and miss.
Yeah.
But when we get to that point and you have all of these kids, my expectation is not that you're here on Sunday morning. I want them to be in the sanctuary because I want them to start to experience big church.
Mhm.
But on Wednesday nights,
Yeah.
I want you to have youth group on Wednesday nights
Yeah.
or Thursday nights or Tuesday, whatever night works for
Whatever night
everybody.
it
But
is. Yeah.
a night through the week that you kind of get the run of the building.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Like this
Yeah.
is your time to
Mm-hmm.
really spend together,
To be
find
yourself.
find a way to connect and bond. And then
Mhm.
my expectation would be that youth pastor is taking them out to eat. Like, hey, why don't the 3 of us go and grab dinner tonight? Even if it's McDonald's, or hey, let's go get ice cream, or
Connect
let's go
with them.
bowling.
Yeah.
Because that's when you get those kids to tell you about life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell you like, hey, my mom is a raging alcoholic and
Yeah.
beats me when they're in a group full of people.
No.
They're going to tell you that whenever they're coming from a broken situation and they're emotional and you've given them the time that you want to listen to
Yeah.
them.
You've shown them
That's
that it's a
what the
safe-
connection is
Yes.
supposed to be about.
Yeah,
Yes.
you showed an interest in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's not everybody's cut out for that, but that's several years of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And then they all graduate and you get to breathe for a second.
Yeah.
So
Did we ask you?
I think I covered all of
I think
mine
so.
because I've rambled
Yeah.
on about mine.
Yeah,
for a
he
while.
rambles
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm really good about that. So I keep checking my phone. I can't help it. I'm like obsessive at this point.
It's like a tick.
I said to my real estate agent, I'm like, all right, give me her address. I'm going to her house and knocking on the door. And they're like, actually, she's texting us right now. So I keep checking because she's asking about the details of our sale, our home sale, to make sure that we're going to be able to close in 30 days and that everything's going to, like, it'll be
Yeah.
flushed out. So
You're like the middleman right now.
yeah,
He wants that money to start that next one.
I'm ready. I'll close on that one in 15 days because
I'm
the
telling
people want mine now. So
That property that he bought on Chestnut that he started clearing out and tearing out, it just will be a matter of time
Mhm.
before he starts there.
yeah.
And I said to Jarvie,
Well, he said he was in Janaton today when we talked to him. So chances are that's where he was at.
yeah, I said,
Said he was pouring
That's-
concrete.
I've been home yet tonight, so I
Yeah.
have to see.
He'd be put in a basement right now for all you know.
I said that that house has to be long because that lot's not very wide.
Mhm.
And Jarvis like, well, just go over on the street your aunt lives on. Look at that one he built over there, which he did. It was a very narrow lot, but he built a beautiful home in
Yep.
there.
He's built 4 in the vicinity of our current house. He built the one right next door. He built one around the corner, and he's building them in tandem. You know what I mean? He's building 3 at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
because he's got the piece of equipment. So if he can have 3 lots going at the same time,
yeah.
when he's got the backhoe there, he's just driving it to each of those lots, doing whatever digging he needs to do, and then pulling it out and taking it to the next place.
Well, those two were
Pretty smart.
amazing how quick they were.
Oh, I'm not surprised. And they are really efficient.
Those guys, they know their job.
Mhm.
And then the 2 he did over by the cemetery
And
was absolutely amazing.
When I looked at those
nice
houses,
those are.
when I walked into that house, I'm talking like the baseboards are level. I'm talking like the ceilings are finished properly. You aren't seeing like
Yeah.
those weird inconsistencies that we'd see
Yeah.
for something that's thrown together.
Mhm.
They're solid houses.
Yeah.
So
He does excellent work.
agreed. Anything else? Any fun departing facts, wisdom? No? Okay.
I just think it takes us back to Proverbs 22:6. Direct your children unto the right path, and when they are older, they will not leave it. Which that's I don't know if that's the verse I'm looking for. Train up the child in the way they should go.
I think that is what
That-
version
yeah, this is the NLT.
NLT. So then
Yeah.
that's
that's
probably
it.
it. Yeah.
So I know in my heart that my children are going to come back the
Mhm.
way they are, where they were raised. And
Yep.
I know that. I just
It's funny because we're in such different walks of life.
Yeah.
Like I can see that my kids are good. Roger has kids that he's like, okay, I don't really have a connection with like where they're at in theirs.
Yeah.
You are full knowing where yours are and where you're hoping they will be. And you're like, well, I haven't even gotten to that point. And so like, it's like, it really is full circle sitting in this room. So
Yeah, I want to know what kind of conversation you had with Rich.
why?
Because he said you had a good conversation.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we just talked about life.
You know what though? Even you being at my grandma's house,
I know.
and
I
I'm
know.
like, oh, it's gonna make me,
Yeah. I know.
just like seeing
Yeah.
my dad,
Yep.
like seeing
Did you
that
s-
you're a person.
Did you see what I did to him?
No.
So he moved out to the sun porch and I just went out and I just kind of patted his leg. I said, you good? Like that was it. Because
Yeah.
there was very obviously like he was not ready to have a conversation with me.
Yeah.
And I could feel that. And I was okay with that.
Right.
Like that's the one thing that I do better than anybody I know, by the way, is I read the room. Like I do not force myself on anybody. Like when a new person comes, I'm not the first one to greet them. I let
Right.
everybody else do it.
Yeah.
They come week 2, now I'm in it. Same with Jarvie.
Yeah.
Jarvie showed up one week. I didn't greet him. I was like, you know what? They got to have their moment.
Yep.
Next week he came. I said hi to him.
Yep.
The next time he came, I went up and I smacked him on the shoulder and said, good to see you, Jarvie. And that like, he knows my name. He knows who I am. Like, do you see what I'm saying?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And so
Yeah.
that was all I did.
Yep.
That was it. Because I'm like, now I'm here.
Yeah.
Like if you need something, I'm here.
Yeah.
And even at the service, he would make eye contact with me, but like you could tell it was still slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we'll buy our time.
Well, and even that, Saturday or Sunday night, we were there, and my dad's like, "Oh, I didn't even really say thanks to anyone, Mom." I'm like, Dad, everyone knows.
Didn't need to.
We're grateful.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're kind of in a weird
Yep.
spot.
Life is weird for him right now. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't imagine. So I haven't experienced a great loss
Yeah.
in my life. I mean, Florence, but my mom's parents are both gone, but they lived in Alabama. So like I wasn't super
Yeah.
close with them. I have both of my parents. I have both of my grandparents on my dad's side. And again, not super, like we're not there all the time, but I see them regularly and we converse and whatnot. Like I've never lost a sibling. I've never lost an aunt,
Mm-hmm.
an uncle. Like, so I really have not experienced that great of a loss.
Yeah.
So for me, processing that is like, I'm looking at it going, I can see how hard it can be,
Right.
but I
But
can't emotionally
can't.
connect with how hard it would be because
Yeah.
I've never been there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably one of the things that I do the best is reading that room and understanding when is appropriate and when is not.
Mhm.
And I'm still that way with Alyssa's family. Like I'm very reserved because I'm a very over the top person, right?
Mhm.
But when I'm with her family, completely different person because they're not ready for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like those people are nowhere near ready for me. Like if they started showing up for church, they'd be like, who is this man? Like they don't, but yeah. You got to know when to turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's an important part of being a pastor. I'll share this really quickly. It's a bizarre story. So I have a girl who works for me who is Amish. She's a wonderful girl. I've kind of raised her up in the company with me. Every time I get a promotion, she kind of comes along with me.
Mm-hmm.
She's one of the hardest workers I've ever met. The interesting part is she's Amish. That means after hours, she doesn't have a phone. She doesn't drive. She rides an electric bike everywhere she goes. But she is probably the hardest worker that you'll ever meet, and very intelligent. Okay, that's why she keeps leveling up with me. I had a weird interaction with her, and she was very upset, and I could tell she was upset. She had sent me an email that was less than flowery, which is just not her personality, especially with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I waited a couple of days, and there was nobody else in our office, and I popped in and I was like, hey, you got a second we can talk? And she's like, yeah, sure, what's up? I said, your email. She's like, before you say anything, I want to apologize. I was in a bad place when I wrote that email. And I'm like, well, what do you mean you were in a bad place? Like, were you frustrated with me? Were you frustrated with the company? What's going on? And she tells me that her sister has run away.
Oh.
That's how she tells me the story. My sister has run away. And I'm like, which sister? Because she has an older sister. She has one that works for us, which I know it wasn't her. And then she has a much younger sister. And she said, it's the one you don't know very well. And I went, oh, Sue. Pastor brain, right? Because I can hardly remember my own name.
Yeah.
Let alone a girl whom I've never met, her name. And she said, yeah. And she kind of looked at me funny. And I said, well, what happened? And she starts to tell me the story. Her sister did not run away. Her sister was abducted. Okay. So she worked at a store, and she was having some mental health concerns. Like, she was depressed and like a lot of anxiety, things like that. So she was working at the store, and there was another girl there who was speaking into her life. Now, this is somebody who you should not be taking advice from very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
So this girl's like, well, yeah, I had to leave home when I was young because my parents were terrible to me. They were abusive and yada, yada, yada. And so Sue starts to think that her parents are that way towards her and that they don't love her. They don't care about her. There's no emotion in their family. Amish people don't show emotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty common thing. And so this girl convinced her to leave and go to Indiana and live with her parents, the ones who are abusive and mean and horrible.
Why?
So Sue packs her bags. This girl drives her to Indiana, drops her off with her parents, and that girl comes back to Ohio. And guess what she's actively doing? Trying to get another one to go. Tell me that's not abduction at its finest. Okay? Now here's the crazy part. The manager from German Village, the store she was working at, that manager, the sister's direct supervisor, and brother-in-law drove to Indiana. They know where she's at. They drove to Indiana and tried to see her, but the guy, the dad, would not allow them to talk to her. Invited them in the house, was very polite to them, but he said, we used to be Amish. We're not anymore. We tried Mennonite. We're not doing that anymore. So now we've started our own church, a non-denominational church.
Cult.
Exactly. Every bit of a cult. Now, they don't have any people yet, but how are they getting them?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying. So that daughter actually probably isn't her daughter.
Correct.
Their daughter.
Well, and even if she is their daughter,
Yeah.
she's in on it,
Exactly.
right?
Mhm.
So anyhow, we start talking this, and my mind is reeling. My mind is just like going 100 miles an hour. Like, what do you do? How do you help? How do I fix this? Because that's the apostolic.
Yeah.
The apostle in me wants to fix.
Fix her.
And I read the room. I took a beat. And instead, I put on the pastor hat and I just listened, and we cried together and we prayed together. And we were just like, in that moment, that was just like we were there together. And it's been a wild turnaround in her life, just that she's able to like process it now.
Yeah.
And anytime something changes, I usually get a text message or a phone call or whatever to just say, hey, we talked to her tonight, or hey, she's whatever, right? And so it's wild to think, though, that we're still raising children when we're not raising our own children. Do you know what I mean? Like, I have
Yeah.
5 children of my own, but so much of that is outside of that, because the people who don't know Jesus like we do
Yeah.
are still very much so children and have to be
right.
taught,
Mhm.
but they don't have to be sat down with a book. They don't have to be preached at. They just need to see that, like,
Somebody cares for
what Jesus is love,
Yeah.
and that's what matters. So for what it's worth, that's a whole new.
Sometimes we're the only Jesus.
I know.
people see.
Yeah. Yep.
And the thing is the Amish Jesus and the English Jesus are very different. I mean, they're the same Jesus, obviously.
Yeah.
But because the Amish don't really have emotion,
Right.
they don't
That's-
experience that same, I shouldn't say they don't have emotion.
They don't express.
They don't express it. It's not often that they're saying, I love you. It's not
Yeah.
often that they're like holding hands and things like that. So
Yeah.
like being able to be that, like being able to show the Jesus that I know it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a very big deal. So
Excuse me.
But she is having contact with the family now. No.
it's bizarre. So here's what my guess is. Yes, she is having contact with them, but they're very
Super.
sporadic conversations, and her answers are yes and no or short answers, like very direct. My guess is they are supervised conversations.
Yeah, that's what I was-
He is allowing her to talk to them
As he-
so that they like
Don't.
so the emotion for them is getting easier to deal with, like they know where she's at.
Mm.
She's 24, so they can't report her missing because they know where she's at and she's there on her own free will, according to her. So there's nothing they can do at this point.
So where she worked, is that in Amish country?
Yes.
So anyone working in Amish country,
Yes.
beware.
Yes.
Because it sounds like they're
Well, they're taking Amish girls because those Amish girls are passive aggressive and they're easily manipulated.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
So
Because she probably hadn't become a member of the church yet.
even if she had, it didn't matter to them because they were looking at it 20 plus years old without a
Mm-hmm.
husband option at this point. It's super easy to get her to say, yeah, I'll go up there and live. Like, shoot, I can have a smartphone or I can watch
Yeah.
TV or
Anything's better than this.
Right,
My parents
exactly.
Don't even love me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's super easy to convince them of that. So
Wow.
I know it's crazy, isn't it? Okay. Oh my gosh, they still haven't texted me back yet. I'll lose my mind. I'm going to lose my mind. All right. Well, Sid, do you want to pray for us tonight?
Sure.
I got to remember which button this is. Turns out it's that one.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you for the time we had tonight. Even if it was 4 out of the 6 of us, anytime us coming together always does end in good conversation, even if we do get caught off track. Thank you for allowing us to share all of our stories, about our children, just in all stages of life and kind of bouncing ideas off one another. I just pray for travel mercies in your name. Amen.
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 Hey friends, Pastor Michael again. If you've enjoyed this podcast, you should consider joining us on Sunday mornings. Our address is 1943 North Water Street Extension in Yorksville. We'd love to have you join us for an in-person service.